Hey, welcome back to Odd Musings, episode number 303. As you see, I'm joined by Scott again.
Yay! That's right.
Returned from
Yeah.
his little travels last week, which was just up the road so they could present the real estate.
Yeah, it was a good time. When I get into our promo for Team Titans, I'll talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get started on these real quick so we can knock them out then. I'm going to start with Lawrenger Family Chiropractic Center, PC, located in Belleville, Michigan, and Dexter, Michigan. They take great pride in providing the finest chiropractic care to each and every patient, offering on-site digital x-rays, massage therapy for a limited time only, that's about gone, orthotics by foot levelers, young limb essential oils, aromatherapy, full line of vitamins, all in a family-oriented environment. Give them a call, 734-697-4244. Visit them online at LawrengerFamilyChiropractic.com. You can also visit them at Facebook here. Just put in the search Lawrenger Family Chiropractic Center PC. I said, correct me if that all the at names have gone away on all this stuff now, as they've changed their Facebooks. I'm sure they're still there technically, but at Lawrenger Family Chiro is what you can do to find them and tag them. And you can call now, like, and check out some of the services available at this time and see what's going on.
That's right. And we also have Team Titans of Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. That's right. Even though we utilize the latest in tools and technology to maximize your home buying and selling experience, we never forget at Score. It's a people business, which is why we go out there and what is it called? You
People
touch hands and shake babies. Is that it? Or
touch hands and shake babies.
What was it?
Okay.
It was in a comedy movie. They said it backwards to whatever the normal phrase is. So anyways, but we went out to there was a senior expo nearby, and we signed up for it. It was awesome experience. Well over 400 people in attendance. Wow. It was only a few hours long, and we personally talked to over 100 people. They came to our booth. We gave out a lot of we had like these gift bags, and we gave out little promotional items and things like that. But we got to talk to a lot of seniors about, a lot of them, this goes back to, it's a people business. It's not a cookie cutter approach. Every single client of ours has different goals. And for a lot of these people, they're either downsizing or they're unloading their house to move into either an assisted living situation or something like that. So we were able to talk to a lot of people about their situations, got a lot of contact info. We're doing a lot of market analysis for people to give them what their current values are so they can make the right choice for them. And every single person, that right choice will be a different decision, so they all have different needs. So we really enjoyed talking to everyone and making these connections, and we're definitely going to be doing some more of those. We also have another event coming up June 10th at Jimmy John's Field. It's a local little baseball league here in Macomb County. So if you're going out to that event, we will have a table set up there as well to talk to the fans of Jimmy John's Field.
Very cool.
Good times. So you can check us out. Our phone number is 586-232-5144. The consultation is free, no obligation. We don't make you sign anything. Just give us a call. We're here for you. We want to be your one-stop real estate source. And whatever that is, whether you're moving or just want to know what your value is, or you need a referral for a carpet guy or an electrician or whatever, we have a great network of people that we have experience with. So Jill and I are waiting for you.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. I wanted to give a quick thing real quick. Somehow this went off my radar, and this just came out. And I want to share this just to give a heads up to people, because I was like completely blindsided. I don't know how, but Metallica has a new album that just came out.
Yeah, I heard some of it.
14th.
Yeah, I heard some of it last week. It's good.
I really like it. If you like old school Metallica, I feel like they're trying to go back to that garage band roots of the sound that they had prior to the Black Album. So I feel like that's what they're trying to capture, and I think they did it.
Yeah, what I've heard of it's really good. Adam Talley had posted it came out. I knew it was coming out, and then I haven't picked it up yet because I'll probably need to pick up the CD and that. But I've listened to it streaming, and I like it.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to be going to see them in November when they're in Detroit. I'll see them on the Friday night.
Oh, I'm jealous. That's awesome.
Yeah. In fact, I'm really excited about it because I see Metallica, but it's also because Mammoth VH is opening for them. That's Wolfgang Van Halen's band. Yep. And they're really good. And he's got a new album coming out this summer. I've heard a couple of tracks. He played them on one of the channels on Sirius, and very, very good.
I think Michael Hall plays with him too, who was also a Van Halen. He was the bass guitarist.
Yeah, I think he has played with him. I'm not sure if he's part of the band permanently, but
Yeah.
I'm sure he has played because I know. Well, Wolfgang, of course, played on with Van Halen for a while. They started when he was like 15,
Yep.
and done much stuff. But the thing I like about it, listening to him talk is he really. It's not just like okay, I can play and I can sing or I can do whatever. He uh, really loves music and loves learning about music and learning history of music. Because a lot of stuff he's playing on, he had like a half-hour program he's doing where he's played a little bit of his stuff, but he played a lot of stuff, and it was like cuts you never would have thought he would play. So,
Right.
and it's good stuff. So,
Yeah. So if you're a fan of Metallica, check it out. 72 seasons, it's called.
yeah, I'm looking forward to listening to the whole thing kind of straight through and get a good feel.
Yeah,
Heard a few of the songs last weekend after it come out, really good.
for sure.
So.
So how was your week?
That was good. I actually went down. We went on Friday night and spent a couple of days with our buddy Kevin and Brandy, and we went to a comedy, and we saw this guy, Michael Winslow. He does stand up. He's really good. He's funny. I've seen this for years, often things that had popped up because he used to do more stuff when he's younger, got away from it, and now he's back doing stuff again. He was on America's Got Talent, was made it to the semifinals. In fact, here's like he's got on YouTube. You can go on. He's got his own channel on YouTube. 85,000 subscribers.
So is his show purely a stand-up, or I feel like there's this trend
not
now?
A traditional stand-up in terms of like constantly having to tell jokes.
Yeah.
He's just.
But does he share a lot of the experiences from his days, like doing Police Academy, Spaceballs, and those things as well, or is he just doing a comedy?
I was about to tell you. So, are you ready to listen?
No.
Okay. What he does is not a traditional stand-up where he's just constantly joke after joke after joke after joke. He's telling some stories, talks about how he does sound effects. He grew up, he started creating these sounds, and he mentions a little bit of movies. Doesn't get deep into the movies, stuff like that. He mentioned, really didn't mention Police Academy. He mentioned Spaceballs in one little bit, but it's different stuff like just it's funny how to describe it. You kind of have to see it's just not a. It almost feels like you're just talking with the guy and he's kind of just telling almost his life story outside of the movies in some ways, but all through different things that influenced him. He started talking about at one point, like he gets to, he's like, he's talking about something about Prince. And he's like, I never got a chance to meet Prince. I would love to, this is how I think it would go. And he brings out some snacks, or starting snacks into the audience. And he was asking Prince, what's your favorite snack? That's kind of question he wanted to ask him. And then he does a sound effects, his sounds and all that stuff and does a Prince song. And it was really good. He did that with Led Zeppelin, about how Led Zeppelin, how it gets the high scream, and stuff like that. He's like, I smacked my hand. He smacked his hand. He's like, ah! It goes from there. So, but you can go on here, as I was showing this pages, and see some of the different stuff he's done. He's got some spots, commercials, things like that. And then different sound effects he's done here and there. I would say this, if you enjoy, if you want to have a good time at a comedy club and he's going to be there, go see it. You're going to have fun. We laughed a bunch, it was great to hear this stuff. We were amazed at the sound effects, and the way he does it too is a couple ways. He's got a thing on the ground, and he's got the board set up with like a tablet, and he will do a couple sounds and talk about, oh yeah, and then there's this sound and this builds to this, and he's actually pre-recording some of the background sounds.
Isn't that called a looper?
Yeah,
something.
So he's looping everything, and he gets it going and builds the loop, and he does everything else.
Yeah, and it's amazing how he does that.
Yeah, and he really does all those sounds.
Is he able to do voice impressions too, or does he stick to sound effect?
He does a little bit of voice impressions. He did a couple in there, here and there, but he's mainly just the sound effects.
Yeah, which is amazing what he does. I'm always blown away by it.
So I, definitely had a great time. Would definitely go see him again. What was pretty cool though is afterwards I said, hey, he'll do a meet and greet afterwards. You didn't have to buy the autograph, but for $20, I was like, I'm buying an autograph. But he was taking pictures. Anybody who wanted to, he was taking pictures with everybody.
I forgot he was in Spaceballs.
Yeah, he's in that little bit there where he's sitting at he's the radar operator, the bleeps, the creeps, and the sweeps. So, and he talked about his life just a little bit. Doesn't get too much into family or anything like that, but he mentioned about how he's been fortunate and he appreciates everybody coming out. He's had he had a career in movies and banked his money. He has a house. He does well, and he just is able to come out and do this stuff. And this is what he loves doing, is just performing.
Does he do movies still?
I haven't seen him in a movie in a long time. Really, I don't think he's done a lot. a few commercials here and there in the last several years. But really, with America's Got Talent, I think that was his avenue of getting back into it. Because a lot of people are like, "Who's this guy?" And they're like, "Oh, we remember you, but it's been 30 years."
Right.
And because after his wife died in the early 90s, he stopped to raise his kids. He was married a couple of times after that, but I think it's, getting back into being an actor and all that stuff, it took a little time, and he's kind of now doing just the stuff. And he was the headliner, so he was definitely headlining smaller clubs, traveling, and with something like that, you can make a very good living doing things like that. And he's just appreciative about it. In fact, when Kevin and I went up to meet him after, at the end, we got our picture taken with him. He thanked us for coming out. I mean, it was like one of those things. It wasn't just like, okay, great, glad you're out here, get out. He was like, man, I really appreciate y'all coming out. And he says to everybody, just appreciated you coming out, because he's one of those guys that appreciates the fans, appreciates he knows that they come because of Police Academy, Spaceballs, things like that. But the fact that they stay, and so it was fun. It was a good time. So I did that, and then of course last week I'd worked every day. So I could get off.
Yeah, we gotta share this though, so people can see.
Yeah.
So there's the picture of Kevin and Brett with Mr. Winslow.
Yep, I had shared that, and then I did a crop of just him and I for put on my Instagram, and
oh, Kevin got the cut. Kevin was cut out. Goodbye.
Well, I had shared originally with him and tagged him, and then I did one to ourselves. But
no, that's awesome though.
But it was great. He was, like I said, just a genuine guy, and I would, if I saw him going again, I can go see him. I would go see him again in a heartbeat. Well worth it, and a lot of fun. So like I said, it's not your typical like here's joke. I mean, there's some comedy in there. He's telling some jokes. He goofs off. He kind of riffs a little bit. You picks up on a little stuff here and there, but he's got kind of what he's going to do. I'm sure it's pretty much planned out. But yeah, it's just like seeing him do like a Led Zeppelin song, and he's basically creating all the sounds for all the instruments, and then doing the voice, and that's when it really gets funny, is because of the stuff he's doing and things like that. So definitely check him out if you get a chance. So
well, that's cool. And then there was some other news that came out this week. Wanted to get your take on it because you and I haven't actually really talked about this. They've announced HBO Max is going to be doing the Harry Potter series. Sounds like they're redoing the books.
Yeah, what they're doing here is what I've said for a few years, and people have said, "Oh no, they would have to do something else. They would just go on to do afterwards." Like, no, what they're eventually going to do, and this is what they're going to do, is they're going to do a more true translation of the books in a television series. They can spend a season. I read an article that said it's going to be 10 years. So they're basically the last probably couple books will have to be extended out over a couple seasons because of the fact they are longer books. And if they really want to capture all the subplots, everything else, which is what it sounds like, I don't have a release, seen anything released. I assume I'm looking at 2 to 3 years before the first season, because it's going to be a lot of pre-planning, prepping, and they're going heavy into it, like Game of Thrones. So but knowing that they actually have a true ending, we don't have to worry about the last season showing up going, okay, what, why did Voldemort turn into a rabbit and hop away?
Yeah, there's certain, I guess it'll be more, what are their casting choices? What are their, how will all that work? But it sounds like, I think J.K. Rowling is still going to be a part of it.
Yes. What I read on this is J.K. Rowling will still be, well, she has to be, for her agreements with Warner Brothers and everything else. They cannot go make and do anything Harry Potter without her signing off on it.
Right.
That was always her deal from the get-go. And she was smart enough to get that from the beginning. So that way they couldn't just take it and run with it and do what they want and change it and corrupt it up. So she is overseeing some things on this. She's not writing it and stuff like that. I had a friend who messaged and mentioned, well, I hope she's not involved. And I thought it was because of her statements, and it's not. She was worried about because of the Fantastic Beasts movies. And I said, no. I said, keep in mind, the problem with the Fantastic Beasts movies was she should have wrote those as books first and then had a screenwriter like Steve Kloves go in and make them a screenplay. With this here, they're going right back to the source material. The book's already written, and there's things that they'll probably want, should be on to help clarify. I have seen where they may change races and things like that.
My prediction is Hermione's going to be black, and that's because J.K. Rowling has spoken about this in the past, and she pointed out she has never ever in the book said what race Hermione was.
Right, and Hermione in the play, Cursed Child, was first originated by an African, or as an African American, actually,
Right.
black from woman from England. I think the one thing that J.K. Rowling will probably still require is all major roles would be
English.
Great Britain,
Right.
people from the and not bringing in American or even Australian actors, except for some of the minor parts. But all the major characters, so all Harry, Ron, Hermione, all the Weasleys, all of them would have to be that. And that's something she's always been very adamant upon. But they definitely could go through and, to me is this, I really don't care what color their skin is. I want them to do justice to the books, justice to the story, tell the stories right with a full season per book. Basically, we're going to get more in depth on some things on the characters, and also the ending they can do in the TV series for the first book alone will be more in line with how the first book went. So if you want to, if you're like Game of Thrones people where I read the books, well, go read the books. You haven't read them, you have a chance, and you can definitely see how everything goes. And I'm looking forward to a better translation, and they're going to spend money on this, so it's not going to be a cheap production. And they're going whole hog into it because I think they realize that, and they've talked about this through whoever runs Warner Brothers now, that they are doubling down on the things that make them money, and Harry Potter's been one of them.
Oh yeah, for sure. The hardest part of this is going to be, and I will see how it goes, but it's kind of like the Lord of the Rings. When they redo that, it's become so iconic. The existing characters as we know them through the movies, it's hard to redo them. Yeah. And Harry Potter is a very iconic series. We so associate the particular actors with the roles.
And that's going to be the hardest part is for fans to accept it. Because this is something we're seeing a little different. We've seen in different, different things. Like you see a different actor doing James Bond. You see a different actor doing a couple of different things. But within major series, it is very difficult. Look at Star Wars. Star Wars with the with the Solo movie. One of the first things is, well, that's not Harrison Ford. It's so iconic on that. It was one of the first things you hear was, well, it's not Harrison Ford. How are we going to like it?
Well, with that too, I think the lesson there is like Ewan McGregor is a different actor for Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
but they wrote him properly, and people will want initially, no matter what you do, it's hard to make the adjustment right away. Yeah. But if you write the character properly, by the second, third, fourth episode, we're getting used to the new actor in the role. And as long as the writing is true to the character, they will be accepted.
Yeah.
I mean, even like Battlestar Galactica, there's a great one. Katie Sackhoff played Starbuck. A completely different gender and everything of the Starbuck we grew up with in the 70s.
Oh, and she got all kinds of flack initially.
Yeah. Well, even myself, I didn't give it flack. I knew it was a completely different series. I mean, we're talking decades apart.
Yeah.
And the feel even was completely different. But I just remember at first, it was so hard for me. Just like, I don't get it. But I gave it a chance and I kept watching. And about halfway through the season, I started liking her version of Starbuck better. And then when I go back and watch the old series, I'm like, this is so lame. Because it's like all of humanity is decimated and they're just like, hey, we're going through space, all happy and jovial. And whereas the newer series, which is now 20 years old, the newer series was very serious and hardcore. And
the new series went more on the political side, where the 70s series was more of was really like a space adventure. I mean, they were heading to this other thing. They're still fighting the Cylons, but they didn't have the political intrigue mainly because you had they had set it up where the Adama character with even the council, basically he still ran the whole show.
Yeah.
Where this one here, they get into space and then you had all the different groups, factions, and planets that were saying, well, we want to run, we want to rule, and this and that.
Yeah, even though
control. So
I think it took into account the human nature more of how people there will still be power struggles, even though you're fighting for your survival. And so I just thought it was so well done. But anyways, now Katie Sackhoff is totally Starbuck in my mind for that series,
Yeah, she did a great job, and I do find it funny because I did meet the original Starbuck, and when they first announced it, he goes, "I can't believe it," because he loved the
Yeah,
character, and he was, but now he embraced it after it came the same
yeah,
way. It's like, okay, they did a good job. I think he was worried that they were gonna make her very lame, and
yeah. Well, I got to meet the original Starbuck too, and I can say he was a complete and utter douchebag
I'll
when
see.
I met him.
The couple times I met
Oh
him,
my God.
I had great experiences.
He
So
goes, so I'll give a very fast story. So I actually, for those of you who don't know, like Brett and I, we do tons of shows. Now we don't do as many now, but when you're on the Comic-Con circuit, there's certain celebrities you'll see like many weeks in a row because you're at the same shows, and you will actually get to know them. Not like buddy, but they know who you are. They know your face. They might know your first name.
mhm.
And because you see each other so often. And for me, Richard Hatch was that way, who played
Apollo.
Apollo.
Richard
And
Hatch was a great guy all the way
oh
around.
yeah, I got to meet him multiple times in like 4 weeks in a row. We would talk and we didn't hang out. I don't want to give that impression, but he knew who I was. And I ran into him in San Diego, and he was having car problems. He had this old used car, and it had broken down, and he had to get this ride into San Diego Comic-Con, and he's hoping his car will be fixed because he had to go to the next show. I'm like, oh, well, where are you going? And he's going to this show in Chicago. I'm like, oh, I'll be there next week, so I'll see you then. So I was set up at the same show. My table was set up right across from them. It was this tiny show in Chicago, and it was this whole Battlestar Galactica reunion. You had Boomer there, and Apollo, and Starbuck, and all the original people, And anyways, the show's starting, and Richard Hatch isn't there, so the seat's empty next to Dirk Benedict, who is Starbuck. So I say hi. I say, oh, do you know when Richard's supposed to be here? And he looks at me. He goes, do I look like his secretary? I'm like, excuse me? He's like, you think I know where he's at? I go, I'm just asking a question. I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, look, are you going to buy something? I go, no, I'm sitting at the table across from you. I just came over to say hi. And then he's like, whatever. And then he didn't want to talk. I'm just like, whatever. The show hadn't even opened yet. And here he is acting this way. So it could be, to be fair to him, he could have just been having a bad day, because everyone has bad days.
Yeah.
So,
and he could have been getting tired, and he may have gotten tired of asking questions about Richard Hatch.
Yeah. So
at least he didn't go, I don't know where Dick's at,
Yeah. But then when he came, Richard Hatch, you talk about how he was so funny the whole time. Like I said, I'm sitting right across, so I'm like 8 feet away, and he is so engaging with every fan. And Dirk Benedict didn't want anything to do with it. He was just miserable. And Richard Hatch, he's coming out in the aisle, and he's like juggling and doing funny things with the fans. And so anyways, that was,
you know what's interesting about that though is I haven't seen much of Dirk Benedict in a few years. I'm wondering if he just got burned out doing this. He used to be everywhere and doing all those shows, and so I'm just thinking that maybe he caught him on a bad day, and then it's like, I just don't want to be here. So and I was trying to think. There was when I met him and Richard Hatch, and then there was another actor who came in, and he was friends with all of them, and actually they'd known each other for years. He was supposed to have been in it originally from the beginning, and then they didn't use him, and then they brought him back with the Pegasus. Let me see if I can find the actor's name. He was a nice guy. Him and I actually sat at the bar there at Motor City, having a drink, watching USC football.
Now, this I didn't realize. I just looked him up. Dirk Benedict. I didn't realize he was born in 1945.
Yeah, he's been around a long time.
So he's 8 years old now.
Yeah,
I didn't realize he was older than my mother. I didn't never realize that.
Yeah, I mean, he's been acting for a long time. I mean, we knew him from Battlestar Galactica. He'd done stuff prior to that. I don't think it was that guy, but yeah, I have to go. I have to go through. I've got an autograph from the guy too for.
This says he was battling cancer.
Oh,
Dirk Benedict. He was battling cancer alone. Let's see. He also. I wonder when he. But yeah, he was very popular. He was like the syndicated thing. Like he was all in all these different TV series back in the day.
Oh,
he was always kind of like the philandering playboy.
Well, yeah, that's why he played the good-looking guy, and they called him Face on A-Team. and really Battlestar Galactica and A-Team is what kind of made them known more than anything. So, but yeah, it's like I said, I think it depends. Just like anybody, there's some I've had bad experiences, and people, and we see them another time they're fine. It's just sometimes they're a jerk, and sometimes they're not. So, but yeah, you mentioned to me about a trailer I got to watch. I checked out. I'm pull this up here. Is the Last Voyage of the Demeter coming out?
Oh yes, I'm looking forward to this.
Okay, so this actually, you mentioned something about America. It's not. This is actually based on the one chapter in the book where they're going to London from Carpathia.
Oh, okay.
And if you want to see the version of the story, the Dracula miniseries from the BBC that came out in 2020 covered this in the second episode.
Okay, so this is the same trip as the BBC Dracula.
Correct.
Oh, okay. I really enjoyed how they handled it, but this is exciting as a standalone movie.
Yeah, and I like the look of this. They had a neat look. The vampire looks really cool that you can see. Let me see if I can get they got the picture there. So see if I can expand. There we go. So you can kind of see they're going with the Nosferatu version of Dracula there.
Which for Crimson Shadows, Nosferatu was also the inspiration. And the way they have this is kind of how I've been kind of picturing, not exactly, obviously, but I really love the look that they did here.
Yeah, and if they follow true to the book, in the BBC miniseries, the ship gets blown up and sank, and then the next episode is set in more modern times, and they have found the casket and they brought him out.
Now that's not in the Bram Stoker, right?
No, because that was the BBC's taking liberties with it. But at the end of that section there, there's like all the captain sees is a wolf getting on land after they basically crash into England.
Yeah. For me though, with the BBC Dracula, if there's something about these horror movies with these monsters where when they take place a couple hundred years ago, it's like there's something about it that is more intense and scary. And I find I'm like cheering for the humans to survive. And then like with the BBC, then he's underwater for 200 years. Then he wakes up in modern times. And then like he's slaughtering all these people in a nightclub. And I'm just like, well, do I really feel bad now? It's like, they look like douchebags. And I'm kind of cheering for the bad guy now because like monster movies in today, it's like I don't feel as bad for the people.
Right.
Like the Dracula, he goes to that one house in the BBC one, and the guy's kind of abusive to his wife, and you're like, well, he kind of had it coming to him,
Yeah.
Suddenly, as you get older, you start identifying with those more. Just like that meme with was it Michael Douglas, where he is frustrated, he goes on a rampage and has that really bad day. And it's like the older I get, the more I identify with him.
Well, of course, he did that movie. What was it, Falling or whatever?
Yeah, what was that called?
He lost his mind. So
right.
So, but yeah, no, that's a good one there. So, but yeah, it looks good. I don't know if I'm going to want to go see it in the theater. I'll wait and see. It's coming out in August, I think it is. But when I did look at it, I was like, okay, this is and it says right from that one chapter. So this is, hopefully it's only about an hour and a half, because if it's any longer, it's going to be just drawn out.
That's a great example too, though, of when you modify a novel to a movie. Talking about the Harry Potter series, this whole movie is one chapter of that story, and it's a whole movie. Yeah. Whereas, a large novel like the Harry Potter books, especially as you get later in the books, they're trying to adapt that to one movie, and you just have to cut out so much. So that's why having a series is so nice.
Yes, and I think that's what I'm looking forward to, is when they get into different nuances, like in the series of books when Hermione creates Spew, the Society of Protection of Elvish Workers and all that stuff. She's trying to basically organize the house elves so they can be treated better. So I think that's where we'll see the wizarding world better, is because they'll be able to handle some of this other stuff. If they're doing hour-long episodes, they do like 8 to 10 episodes a season. I think Harry Potter will be just perfect at that point.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, because even the side characters in Harry Potter, like Neville Longbottom, is very loved by the fan community, so it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle this.
Well, and there's things like they introduced Colin Creevey a little bit in the second movie. He's the one with the camera, but he had a lot more story in the book and continuing on a little bit. as just a side subplot here and there. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of those characters we'll be able to see more of, and then be able to spend time with and see those stories that help shaped a lot of different things. So
I'm curious too, Easter egg wise or cameos. Like, will they bring back like maybe they bring back oh, the bully cousin there, Dursley. What's Dursley's?
oh, the actor.
No, the character that's always bullying Harry.
Well, that's Dudley.
Dudley.
Dudley's his
What?
cousin. He'll
Yeah,
be
right,
all in the original novels. He was in like they were in the first. I don't remember if he was in 7 or not. I
right,
think 7 may have been when they left, but they basically they cut out them in a couple of films because of time.
right, right. So that family could have a much more prominent role
Right.
also in the series.
Yeah,
And
they should be at the beginning of each season or each start of each book
yeah.
because they were part of all that.
And
And then as they
especially
go,
towards the end too, you see how Dudley and the whole family, you see the connection they have with Harry towards the end and what happens. And that'd be cool to if they can focus on that again some
well, I
more.
mean, the thing too was like towards the end of basically Harry never went back to them after a certain point, and it him and Dudley because Dudley saw that Harry actually besides saving from Dementors and different things going on that what was going on, and also as they started killing the Horcruxes, there's always been this theory that the
Right.
Dursleys, while still the aunt and uncle were still kind of basically they're jerks.
It would have
Um,
been
they were
magnified.
it was all magnified, and then as it went away and as Dudley grew and understood some things and saw things and realized everything Harry went through just there with them, that they were never friends, they were still family, so they still stayed in
Right.
touch. It's mentioned in the 7th book.
Maybe if they brought back some of those actors, like maybe the actor who played Dudley, bring him back as maybe the dad, or some of the kids bring them back as professors, like the actors themselves as cameos.
I
Or
think a lot of the major actors probably won't come back, just for the fact that they're too recognizable no matter what you do. And that
could be.
now Dudley, we don't recognize him now because he played Edgar Allan Poe in that movie.
He thinned out so much.
Yep, and that so I could see him in a role in that. I wouldn't necessarily want him as dead. They're going to want to get. I think people that want to really originate those roles, but I think
Yeah.
little side characters that only make a quick blip would be a
Right.
great way to bring some of the original stuff. But I think the more they don't bring back those movies, that's the one thing I've been seeing on posts for Harry Potter is they're like, oh, it's too soon. No, it's not. It's been over 20 years since the first
It's been
movie.
a long. When was the first movie?
It was 2001. So
2001. So 22 years.
yeah. So by the time it comes out, you're looking at 25 years for the movie.
Mhm.
They did the what was it at New Year's last year's when they did the anniversary thing, the 20-year Hogwarts thing, and that had been just over 20 years. So if first season comes out, it's probably close to 25 years since the first movie had come out, and then if we go 10 more years, things like that. But this is a great way to tell a story a little bit better. It's a lot more story, a lot more richer. It's like the Lord of the Rings. They told a ton of story in the movies, but really, if you go look at the extended cut, that extra hour is more story. It's just not extra gore or anything like that. It was
Right.
actually more story of stuff they added in because there is so much story more in books than there is that. Even Game of Thrones, I mean, once they covered all the books, they told a lot of story, and they did zip through a little bit of it. But I think with these, they're going to really stick to really telling the full story of the Harry Potter novels. So we'll see. And that, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm excited for it though.
I am.
Yep, me too.
I'd definitely be watching it, and I think the only complaints we'll hear is those that have decided they don't like J.K. Rowling anymore, so they'll complain about that. And I'm just like, just don't watch it. If you don't like somebody, don't watch it. Don't participate.
I'm just glad HBO and Warner Brothers has put their support behind J.K. Rowling and aren't. I mean, I'm really disappointed in the main cast, like Daniel Radcliffe and them, because they would have nothing right now if not for J.K. Rowling. And the fact is this: I'm sorry, people, if you don't like J.K. Rowling, you either are brainless and have no clue what she actually said, or you're brainwashed and you can't see how there was nothing wrong with what she said. Absolutely nothing. And it's
no,
ridiculous.
she's a feminist, and everything she's doing is because she feels
she's
that,
very liberal.
like women are being side,
and
they went, oh, she's anti-trans, and it's not the case. She
did not speak out about them at all.
What she said was, there are things that need to be watched and monitored, and there's some things that people are doing that aren't right, and it goes against women, and we're seeing more and more of that as it is.
You can't, if all womanhood is if I can just put on a skirt and claim to be all the experience that you have had lifelong as a woman, then there's not much value to being a woman.
Yeah.
It's that there, and there is much more to that. I can't
Mhm.
just put it on and claim I understand everything about you. No,
Right.
I did not grow up as a woman. I cannot tell you what it's like. So
If I've upset some people, well, I'm sorry. I still like you, but I don't have to necessarily agree with everything. So, but I did something I did like this week. I went and saw
Yes.
yesterday the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yes.
So
tell us about it.
Well, it's basically it's just it's a basic story. There's nothing deep about it, which is great because it's a kids movie. It sets up the world of Super Mario. Him and a brother are plumbers. They had worked for a guy. They started to set up their Super Mario Brothers Plumbing. So that's where they call themselves Super Mario Brothers. I've always wondered though, you got Mario, Luigi, why it always had to be Mario Brothers, and not like a last name or something like that. But that's fine. I mean, that's here and there because even the family, they introduced the Mario Brothers family, and they have other uncles, stuff like that. In fact, one of their uncle looks like the original Jumpman from when they first created the like Donkey Kong and Jumpman games and that. So
wait a minute, does Mario have a last name?
As far as I know, they don't.
Yeah, it's just Mario, and it should be Mario and brother.
Yeah.
Or Mario and Luigi.
Yeah. So, and there goes your thing. Let's see here. Let's see if he has his last name. So the basic premise of this is, we introduced the Mario Brothers.
That was my cell phone ring that was going off.
Yeah,
it's the Mario Brother theme song.
Basically, we get introduced to Mario, Luigi. They just started their own business. They have a commercial. They get made fun of by their former boss, who they quit working for. They're plumbers, we see them on they're going on their first plumbing job, and then they end up, so things get screwed up. So they watch TV, and Mario is just depressed, and he hates mushrooms. By the way, he doesn't like to eat mushrooms. They had to make sure they got that in there. And then they see that Brooklyn is flooding. There's something going on, and so they go to they go down there. Oh, they're at the wrong place, so they end up going down underneath there, and they end up in the sewers. And they find like just a lightly green looking sewer, whatever they go into, and they end up getting sucked into the other world. And that's, of course, before that we did get introduced to Bowser, but when we meet the Marios, that's how they end up in the other world, and then that's where the adventure begins. And basically, it's Mario trying to save Luigi. Finds out that Bowser's coming to destroy Mushroom Kingdom. So he joins forces. And in fact, all this stuff you see with him running here, right here, and this stuff, this was a whole cool training sequence, which is like out of the games where he's learning to jump and everything else. And it takes it forever. It's just like playing the games. The first time he did, he always died. So basically, instead of dying, though, he just doesn't finish the level. And you learn about the initial mushroom of it makes him bigger and more powerful.
That's a cool way of putting it into the movie, the original game format.
Yeah, and they had it a couple times. They had it on Brooklyn, or they're doing a couple things jumping through, and it was like the old side scroller, and so it was. And this is like the old like Nintendo 64 3D a little bit.
Yeah, very cool.
I liked it. It was a lot of fun. They set up there is a mid-credit and end-credit scene, so they set up future movies with the launch of the Hollywood Nintendo Land, and then eventually the Orlando one, which will open in about 2 years. I think this is them really trying to get it because Universal is a part of this, along with Illumination, and then of course Nintendo. So they're all in partnership on this, and I think it's because of the we'll see more of these movies as of course with the different lands coming for the theme parks. And we saw a lot of stuff like from the original Mario Brother games through Mario like 3, and then they introduced a few other elements here and there from different ones. So I think it's well worth seeing, and I'll definitely watch it again. It was fun.
Nice.
So, and if you know the games, you see a lot of cool things in it. So
cool. And then I also saw a movie. I saw Renfield this weekend, which is a Dracula movie. Nicolas Cage plays Dracula. Nicholas Holt, is that how you pronounce his name? Holt. He was Beast in the X-Men movies. He's Warm Bodies. He's in tons of stuff. But anyways, movie overall, I enjoyed it. It was a fun movie to go to. It was an interesting take on it. As far as level, like I was kind of confused going into it. Is this going to be a comedy movie, serious? What was it doing? I think I would equate the tone, level of comedy, level of violence to The Kingsman. how it's kind of tongue in cheek, but they do a serious take on the stuff. But all the fight scenes are over the top. Like you kick somebody and they split in half, and 10 gallons of blood flies everywhere, or he rips the arms off of a guy and then uses the arms as nunchucks and attacks so it's like over the top, but they don't treat it as a comedy. They treat it as serious in their universe. So overall, I think if you like a movie like The Kingsman, I think you'll like this. If you're a Nicolas Cage fan, I think you're going to like this. There's no mid-credit or end-credit scene, so once the movie's over, you can leave. But I liked it. I would recommend it. I'm glad I went and saw the $5 version instead of the full price version. Because Tuesdays is $5 day. One of the things though I noticed in this is the way. So you got Dracula, the main character, and then he has what's called a familiar who takes care of his needs. He's an underling of Dracula,
right?
And for him to activate his powers, he has to eat bugs. And I've been noticing lately this trend of these celebrities trying to convince us to eat bugs to save the planet. And this here, Nicolas Cage was actually eating bugs on the set because he thinks our world will benefit. And it's like, stop. I'm not eating bugs. I'm fine with chicken and cows. I don't, no bugs. But there is this big push going now where they're doing videos showing themselves eating these bugs to try to convince us all to stop eating meat. So there you go.
Yeah, ain't happening. I like my steak.
Yeah, I'm not eating bugs.
I'm not looking to eat a maggot steak.
I'll eat humans before I eat bugs.
Yeah. Well, vegans are grass fed, so
they are grass fed. So are cows.
Yeah, well, not all, but yeah, for the most part, because it costs more for the grass fed cow meat,
right? But yeah, I enjoyed Renfield. It was a different movie, better than most of the movies this year. I've been very not thrilled with most of the movies I've seen this year. So
see, that's been the thing with the movies too, is just so much stuff has just been underwhelming in a lot of ways. And it's cool. I still want to go see. I just haven't had time. I want to go see Air. I hear that's really good. It's the Michael Jordan Nike story.
I heard the Pope's Exorcist is really good.
That's the other one. Yep.
I want to see that.
And then
one.
I still want to see John Wick. I just haven't set aside 4 hours because 3 hours a movie plus a little bit extra. And
yeah.
So it's just time more than anything the last couple weeks. But Super Mario Bros was an hour and a half, like that. It's already made like 700 million worldwide. So
yeah, same with Renfield, also an hour and a half. So it's not a long movie.
Yeah, and that, but yeah, a lot of the stuff that's just coming out, it's just as soon as it comes out, it's like I enjoyed the Shazam movie. That was fun. I know a couple people said they went. I know they saw Creed 3. They said they liked it, but they really liked those movies. I personally was not crazy about the fact that they cut out Stallone completely. And basically took his characters and went on without him. And he's like, well, it's my characters, but unfortunately he doesn't own the rights to that, but he has sued for some of that. So we'll see what he gets on that. Avatar, I was never thrilled with. I wasn't thrilled with the first one. That first one I saw it once and I've never needed to see it again. Right. But even, with that, they made their money. Ant-Man, I was very disappointed in that. Surprised at how bad that was.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a movie this year where I walked out saying, wow, that was awesome. And honestly, in the last 2 years, it's not been many. I think the last one I was really like, wow, that was great, was Spider-Man No Way Home. And that might be the last one I was like, wow, that was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Maverick too.
Well, Maverick was probably the only thing last year I truly enjoyed because I went and saw it twice.
Yeah.
It's like some of these movies I would definitely go see again because I want to see them again, like either on like a different format, like 3D or IMAX, stuff like that. And most of these movies I just don't care to go see again. Right. That's how I felt about the Ant-Man movie. Saw it, good, done. And then of course now the guy that's playing Kang is in all kinds of legal trouble. So it's like, okay, how kind of jeopardy is that going to put the series of movies in?
Wasn't it proven though that she was lying about him? They were able to prove something with the text messages or something.
Well, that's what his lawyer keeps saying, but he still has a court case, and then I keep seeing where he keeps losing jobs. So I'm going, okay, so what are they going to do here? So
very interesting.
It's going to be interesting on that, but yeah, it's just not. Yeah, I said a lot of the movies I'm just like going through stuff, trying to watch stuff. I'm like, God, I don't want to say I've gotten old and that's why, but it's just as I've gotten older, I'm going, I still go back and watch stuff I used to like, and I like that still.
I
So
still come back to, though, are the movies getting worse, or are we getting spoiled by how deep stories are through streaming?
I
Because streaming,
think it's a mix of both. I really do. I think
yeah,
it's we get such a nice detailed story in a lot of the streaming stuff. They're able to handle things differently, and then you go see stuff in the movies, and it's just like they're just not telling good stories. And sometimes I think it's too much of someone's agenda of what they want
true,
to bring across. And it's just like, okay, I don't care about your agenda, left, right, in between. I want a good story.
good
And if you
story.
can't tell a good story, it's not worth wasting that kind of time. So,
Speaking of which, the trailer for the Marvels came out. It's like the most disliked trailer in history.
oh, that was a horrible trailer. God,
Yeah.
here's another example of them taking what could be good, strong female characters and making them sound,
Stupid.
yeah. And that's exactly with the Rambo character. They got the girl from the series, and then of course Brie Larson's for Captain Marvel. And every time I listen to it, I'm going, God, this dialogue is horrible in this trailer. They made up. There's no. And then they're showing like the Rambo character constantly just messing up, and it makes it sound like like she can't do anything. I'm like, and then she gets powers, and it's like they're feeding. I'm like, I don't know. I'm looking and going, this does not sound good. And this is what gets me is you want to have good, strong female characters. They talk about this, but then they don't write them that way, and they're like, well, if you don't go see it, you don't like female characters.
Well,
That's your problem. I'm like, no, I like a good, strong female character. I love the Alien movies. Strong
but
female
see,
character.
I think you're hitting on a really good point there. Is a lot of times when we think about the agenda, we're talking about the story itself, but it also goes on behind the scenes and who they cast, not just as the actors, but as their writers. And a lot of times they're picking people who they're known for what they write, not that they write movies. And part of that is, and if we can move into it right now real quick before we get into Mandalorian, is, during Celebration, they announced this Rey movie that takes place in the future. And the person they announced as heading up the writing, I look her up, and she's known as a journalist who writes about the inequalities of women. And her only real screen credit is Miss Marvel TV series, which was okay as far as how it was received, but it wasn't like so great that it's like, this is the writer we need to move Star Wars into the future, to carry the largest franchise in the world into the future. Like, they hired her because of her politics. But now it's starting to look like, well, maybe they didn't hire her. So Brett and I talked about this last night.
Yeah, Scott got home me last night for a minute, and the sources on this, and this is the thing I always tell people to look at, is when you look at what they're quoting as, if they just say unknown source or this, then you can't trust what they're saying. They're quoting directly from the Hollywood Reporter and Variety. Those two right there are the trades of the entertainment industry in Hollywood. And if they're confirming this information, that there's stuff going on, then definitely there's some truth to this.
Right.
And it makes sense, because all we've heard for the last couple of years is that Kathleen Kennedy was getting ready to retire. She was stepping away, stuff like that. And then in this article, it mentions her legacy was going to be cemented there at Celebration as the Indiana Jones film. That's the last one. That was going to be her swan songs. They were trying to make it really good for not just her, but mainly for Harrison and all that. But now she's like, oh no, I'm doing this Rey movie. And she brings in Daisy Ridley. Was Daisy Ridley in on it, or was she a pawn? I assume she was a pawn in this and didn't realize that this may not be happening. And she might get called by Kathleen Kennedy and says, oh yeah, no, I'm greenlighting this. We're going forward. This is what I want you to do. And bring her out as a big surprise. And then they announced The Acolyte, which we had read just a month or so before, was put on hold by Bob Iger.
Right.
So it's like, okay, did she come into Celebration to kind of hijack Celebration? And that's what it sounds like. And now Iger's going to come behind her like, no, this ain't what happened. And he's going to have to take care of it a different way.
Well, and let's look at Kathleen Kennedy's track record. Okay, so Rogue One, she got lucky on. She let them do whatever they want, and they happened to make an awesome movie. Then we have Star Wars Episode 7, which was okay. I thought it was good myself. I thought it was a perfect soft reboot of a series.
Yes.
Where they kept the legacy of the old stuff. I thought that was good. JJ did a good job, but he's a true fan of Star Wars as well. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he was too afraid, according to him, he was too afraid to accept all three movies. He only wanted to stick to one.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, had he only written all 3 and we had that story arc, that would have been great. But she also got lucky with JJ. Then Solo happened. She hired guys based on who she liked as individuals, paid no attention, let them do whatever they want. She doesn't actually control anything. She just lets them do what they want. And they also were doing Star Wars Episode 8 at the time, letting them do whatever they want, Rian Johnson.
Yeah.
Well, Rian Johnson's movie comes out and it's a disaster. And if you like it, that's fine. But there is no doubt you can look at the numbers. Star Wars imploded financially after Episode 8. The toy sales plummeted, everything plummeted. It's a fact. That caused them the studio to say, wait a minute, we need to look at what the Solo guys are doing. They realized, oh my God, this is a disaster. They're making a mockery of everything.
Well, what we had with that was the Solo was you had the Kazans, you had Jonathan is that wrote a story, and that was, and when they get in there when they're filming it, they're not following it. They're like, okay, yeah, well, here's where the setting is. Don't worry about that. I want y'all to start improvising, and they wanted them to improvise everything. And these are the guys that did the Lego movie,
and they were making everything goofy.
Yeah, they were basically it was they were doing a live version of the Lego movie in some ways.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I mean, there's a good story. So when Ron Howard came in, they figured out what they could save, and then they shot the rest of it. And Ron Howard went back to the script, brought the Kazans back in, and the Kazans were a part of the Obi-Wan series, things like that. So,
and I think if Ron Howard was part of this from the start, I think they would have cast Anthony Ingruber as a young Han Solo, and it would have totally worked. Instead, because these other guys cast they didn't try to cast somebody who could pull it off. Now, once Ron Howard came in, he had who he had as far as the cast, but they brought in voice coaches to help the actors learn how to sound like who they were playing. And Donald Glover, for instance, you can tell what scenes he shot pre Ron Howard and post Ron Howard, because he sounds very much like Lando in some scenes. And those are the scenes after Ron Howard had the voice coach come in.
Yeah,
this is how Lando sounds.
His cadence changed.
Yeah.
Same thing with Alden Ehrenreich. Once they worked with him on how to sound more like Han Solo, they know it's not going to be the exact same voice, but they wanted more sound like that. It made more sense. And you can see that too, where his mannerism changed, his way he stood, his cadence. It was all about how to deliver the lines.
Play the character.
Yeah.
So they saved that one. And then, of course, Rise of Skywalker, also under Kathleen Kennedy, they're trying to save it. But by that point,
that was JJ came back, and JJ tried to fix the problems from Last Jedi, because Last Jedi, well, I mean, besides killing off Luke Skywalker, they ran into all kinds of other issues within the story. They had a character that really made no sense where she came from. They just found her in a basement. They had already set Finn back to the beginning of Force Awakens, where he was afraid of everything again and running away. Oh, First Order's here. I got to go. No, you'd already dealt with that in the first movie.
Right.
And that's where, Rian Johnson, we talked about this a million times, screw that up. But, this was all because Kennedy allowed all this to happen. And everything with her was, the Force is female. No, the Force is everybody. And everybody, it should be good stories. They act like there's not been any good female characters. Yes, when the first Star Wars movies came out, there wasn't many female characters. Leia was a very strong character, and she would definitely resonate with a lot of girls. But a lot of women nowadays that are still fans of Star Wars, it's the original Star Wars. The Rey character, I like the Rey character, but they definitely didn't do her justice. They didn't do the Finn character justice, and they told these bad stories. And that's where the problem lied, is bad storytelling. And if you're constantly going to say, our stories have to only be led by insert whatever minority you feel needs to be there only. It's like, no, find the right actors, find the right characters. I don't care what color they are, I don't care what sex they are, just tell a good story.
Right. So, I agree.
And I think that's what we're seeing here, is her imploding, and she's screwed up, and she's going to also, I think, feign sickness and have to step away from Lucasfilm finally.
So this brings up an interesting point. Us talking in the past, and this could go all different ways with the Ahsoka series and the Veil of the Force and the World Between Worlds, and will they be rebooting or retconning the future or not? through the Ahsoka series. Now, when they announced this movie, I felt like it was like, okay, they want to make it clear they're not retconning the future. But if it's true that this is a complete hoax that Kathleen Kennedy pulled trying to save her own job, because if she could pull this off, this doesn't just save her job, it saves her legacy. Because if they retcon the sequel series, that's her legacy.
Yeah.
Not the Indiana Jones. Nobody cares about the next Indiana Jones movie. People are going to go see it, but that's not her legacy is not that.
No, and if she had done what they were supposed to at Celebration, and they were going to showcase all the stuff she's done over the years for Lucasfilm,
right?
And then culminating into this, and that would actually give her a better legacy. Because right now, if they were to go forward with whatever she wants to do, her legacy is still going to be abysmal failure.
Yeah, the legacy is, you can sum it up in a meme. Have George Lucas standing there with a knife in his back and her holding it. That's the legacy of Kathleen Kennedy. Right. And it will forever be that. She was there from the start. Lucas promoted her through the ranks the whole time.
And part of his deal was that she would continue on. Yeah.
Yeah, because she understood the vision. And the second she had the power, she goes in there and says, we need to change it all. That's an outdated view. Ignore George's script for the sequels. We have to do something new.
Yep.
That's what she did. And she almost killed the biggest franchise in history because of her whole agenda.
Yep.
And so now that this is looking more and more like a hoax, like Brett said, these are sources that have legitimacy. Doesn't mean they're 100% accurate. No, but there's probably a basis of fact here.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to see now with Ahsoka, like, are we going to see change? And they can still do this. In the Ahsoka trailer, they mention Heir of the Empire.
Yes.
Okay. And in that series, in the expanded universe, that's where we get the clone emperor.
And if you go back,
Sabath,
the Heir of the Empire novelization and those series of novels was the official sequel to Return of the Jedi at the time when they came out, because George said, I'm not going to go back and do any more Star Wars. Okay, fine, let's do these novels. They hadn't done anything since those Ewok movies in 85, 86.
Right.
So having novelizations was like, okay, yeah, we can do this, and that's fine. But he was able to go back and say, they're not what I wanted, but let's go on.
But if they do decide they want to keep Rey as a character for moving forward, you can still retcon everything, because we know her through episode 9 of the movies, Rise of Skywalker, her father is a clone of the Emperor. So if they bring in a clone of the Emperor into the Ahsoka series, all they have to do is make that Rey's father, and she will be born then.
Yeah.
And you can still keep the character while changing what happens down the road. So there are ways they can do this. So I'm curious to see what happens. But
I am too, because I want good Star Wars. I've been enjoying it. That's why with The Mandalorian, which we won't talk about today's finale. We're going to talk about the last couple of weeks real quick.
Should we just push? Yeah, let's do it real brief, because it's already 11.
We'll get into everything next week with the finale.
Next week.
Yeah. So, basically, there's not much to get into there, because all of it ties in together. The last couple episodes all really lead up to get to this finale here that happened today. So we'll get into all that next week. But
we got to point out the highlight, though, of last week's episode.
Yes.
Grogu has a mech suit.
Yes.
I'm seeing people do memes of Grogu, and it's like the poster for RoboCop, and it's Grogu.
Yeah. And he's got two buttons that go, one goes yes, and one goes no. And then you got the Mandalorian basically arguing with the child, give me this. Don't do that. No.
And then you see the frustration of the Mandalorian. He's this big, tough guy, and he's like, this is not working for me.
Yeah.
It's not good. Once your child, it's so true. Once your child learns the word no, that's all you hear over and over and over again.
Yeah. So it was, I've enjoyed it, this season here. Now, we've not heard anything official about a season 4. We just know that there will be a Mandalorian movie, or a movie that's tie in the entire Mandoverse, as they're calling it.
Yep.
Next thing we've got is the Ahsoka series. There was a lot of Star Wars news we never covered because it was just myself last week from Celebration. But we have the second season of Andor will drop in about a year and a half almost. Sometime in the summer of next year. And then we suppose we're getting that Acolyte series. There's another season of Tales of the Jedi coming. which I enjoyed those because that's Filoni. So, and then we have one more season of Bad Batch coming.
So I did quickly look up this article. I don't know if it's true or not, but this article says, according to the series creator Jon Favreau, The Mandalorian is definitely getting a 4th season, and he's already written the script.
Good.
So hopefully that's true. Who knows what it is, but that's according to Polygon.com, whoever they are. So take it with a grain of salt. I don't know if it's true or not. And as always, they could have written a script, but that can always change. They can cancel things. They can move it around. So even if the script is written, it doesn't guarantee it.
Right. But Favreau has always been like ahead of writing these scripts out. Yeah. It's like the first season wasn't even done airing. He's like, "Oh yeah, I already wrote the second season. We're ready to go."
Yeah.
He's definitely been on that. So, but there's another one. Esquire magazine says something about that that Favreau has confirmed. Esquire's a little more respectable magazine.
Yeah.
So definitely we're going to see a 4th season. Cool. We still have that Skeleton Crew show that could come out. So because originally what we saw was like Skeleton Crew and the Acolyte were all indefinite delayed, and then all of a sudden that was even a month later at Celebration. Oh, here they go, but that was all Kennedy. So we'll see what actually does come out, because like everything I've seen is stuff they showed there, but they haven't fully released. I don't think they've released an official trailer yet for like the Acolyte and all that.
Yeah, I don't believe they did.
I think it's all been just the stuff they were showing at the.
Yeah, they did have the cast revealed.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. So 9 people they revealed as the cast.
Yeah, but it sounds like this one's done in that. So it's not. Let's see here. Try this one. Yeah, everything I'm seeing has not been anything.
There are some behind the scenes photos from the Acolyte, so there are full sets. It looks like.
Yeah, well, my understanding is it was pretty much was filmed, but everything I'm seeing has been just either leaks or they make it try to seem like it's a real thing, but it's actually just fan put together. So
yeah. Well, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just anything I want is to be a good story. So hopefully we'll get that. So
for sure.
Join us next week. We'll cover the Mandalorian season, what we liked, what we didn't like, and whatever you liked or didn't like. We don't care because you don't pay to be on our show. So hey, no, I'm kidding. If you guys want to join us, always comments on one of the pages that we have the streaming to through Facebook or YouTube, and we will include you in the conversation as much as we can.
Yeah.
But until next week, guys, see ya.